Nobody in the quiet town of Salina expected trouble on a night like that. Clear sky, warm breeze, and streets so calm they felt painted on. But for Leora, the moment began with a jolt, a feeling that something was about to change forever. She had just stepped out of the old observatory, still clutching the small notebook where she scribbled her star mapping ideas. She loved that place. Its silence, its dust, its cracked dome. It felt like standing inside the heartbeat of the universe. But that evening, silence wasn't what she found waiting outside. A sharp voice cut through the stillness, hitting her before she even spotted the source. Leora froze. 3 figures lingered near the rusted gate, people she didn't recognize. They weren't threatening in any graphic way, but their tone carried the kind of edge that made her grip her notebook tighter. She took a careful step back. Her breath hitched. She wished she had decided to leave earlier, maybe just a few minutes before. Maybe then none of this would have happened. That's when he stepped out of the shadows. Kyle. He always moved like he belonged somewhere between the real world and whatever lived beyond the sky. Dark jacket, thoughtful eyes, the kind of quiet presence people trusted even before they knew why. Leora had met him only a handful of times. Short conversations about constellations, strange energy readings near the cliffs, and the kind of mysteries no one else cared about. But tonight, he looked different, alert, grounded, protective in a way she had never seen from him before. He approached with slow, steady steps, placing himself between her and the strangers. Never aggressive, never raising his voice, just calm and solid, like he had been waiting for this moment. "Is everything all right here?" he asked, tone low but steady. The air shifted instantly. The strangers hesitated, thrown off by his confidence. Kale didn't posture or threaten. He simply stood there, rooted like a tree refusing to bend. Whatever tension had filled the air began to lose its force. Leora watched the scene unfold in disbelief. She barely knew this man, yet he stepped in as if her safety mattered more than his own ease. One of the strangers muttered something under his breath. Another shrugged. The third backed away first. And just like that, slowly, reluctantly, they all drifted off into the dark, leaving nothing behind but their fading footsteps and the echo of the moment. When the last one disappeared around the corner, Kale turned toward her. "You all right?" he asked softly. His voice carried the warmth of someone who genuinely wanted to know, someone who didn't step in for praise or attention, but because something inside him refused to walk away. Leora nodded, though her heartbeat still fluttered with leftover nerves. Thank you," she managed. "I wasn't sure what I was going to do." Kale gave a small smile, the kind that didn't reach his full expression, but still softened everything about him. "You don't have to thank me. I was passing by anyway." But something in his eyes said otherwise, something deeper, something unsaid. The breeze picked up, carrying the faint scent of pine and night blossoms. A moment stretched between them, quiet, unhurried, strangely comforting. She felt grounded simply standing there, as if the fear from minutes ago belonged to someone else entirely. He glanced at her notebook. "Working on your star charts again?" She laughed under her breath. "Always." "I like that about you," he said before he seemed to realize he said it out loud. His gaze drifted away, a hint of embarrassment touching his features. "I mean, you're dedicated. That's rare." Her cheeks warmed, though she hoped it wasn't obvious under the dim lights. Kale wasn't someone who gave compliments easily or casually. Everything he said felt intentional, like each word carried weight. When he finally walked her to the main road, the tension of the night faded into something gentler, something she didn't quite understand yet. But one thing was clear. She would never forget the way he stepped forward without hesitation, and she wasn't sure what that meant for her heart. Not yet. Still, the question lingered in the cool night air, soft and full of possibility. What happens next between them? If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Morning light reached Selena with the softness of a whispered promise, brushing pale gold across rooftops and waking the quiet town one slow breath at a time. But Leora barely noticed the sunrise. Her mind replayed the night before over and over. The moment Kyle stepped forward, the certainty in his eyes, the calm strength in his voice. Sleep had been impossible. She kept wondering why he happened to be there at that exact moment, walking down a road that almost no one used after dark. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe he just liked the solitude. Or maybe, though she tried not to let her heart leap too quickly, maybe he had been on his way to see her. By late morning, she found herself drifting toward the observatory again. The air smelled of warmed cedar and distant ocean wind, the kind of mix that always reminded her of Kyle. She wasn't sure when he had become someone she associated with comfort, but the feeling had settled deep. Inside the observatory, the dome gleamed faintly under the sunlight seeping through cracks. Dust floated lazily, like tiny galaxies suspended in the air. Leora opened her notebook, pretending to focus on star positions, but her thoughts kept wandering. Her hand paused mid-sentence. What if last night had changed something? She tried to steady her breath, but a sudden knock echoed from the entrance. A gentle, careful rhythm, the kind of knock someone uses when they're not trying to startle you. Leora's heart jumped. She knew that pattern. Cale stepped into view, leaning slightly against the frame, his expression carrying that familiar, quiet thoughtfulness. "Hey," he said. "Didn't mean to interrupt." "You're not interrupting," she replied, maybe a little too fast. She softened her tone. "I mean, you can come in." He walked inside slowly, as if giving the old floorboards time to adjust to his presence. The observatory seemed to change with him there, becoming warmer somehow, less lonely. Cale lifted a small paper bag in his hand. "Brought you something." She blinked. "For me?" He nodded. "Figured you might be working all morning. Thought you'd forget to eat." Inside were fresh pastries from the town's tiny bakery, flaky cinnamon twists, warm berry rolls, the kind Leora always bought when she needed comfort. The fact that he remembered surprised her more than she expected. "You didn't have to do this," she said softly. "I know." Cale's voice held a gentle certainty. "But I wanted to." There it was again, intentional, steady, unforced, the kind of sincerity that didn't need decoration. They sat on the edge of the old brass platform, sharing the pastries while dust-speckled sunlight washed over their shoes. Leora tried to act normal, to keep her thoughts from running too far ahead, but every quiet moment between them held a new weight. Finally, she asked the question that had been nudging her since dawn. "Last night, you weren't just passing by, were you?" Cale froze for a heartbeat. Then he looked at her, really looked at her, with eyes full of something she couldn't name. "I was going to check on you," he admitted. "You mentioned you'd be here late, and that path gets strange at night. I just wanted to make sure you got home safely." Her breath caught, not out of fear, not out of surprise, but something far gentler, like warmth settling into her chest. He continued, voice quieter now. "I hoped you wouldn't think it was strange. I just worry sometimes, more than I should." "Why would you worry about me?" Leora asked, barely above a whisper. Cale hesitated, fingers brushing lightly over the edge of the platform. His shoulders rose with a slow breath, as if he was gathering courage from somewhere hidden. "Because you matter more than you realize." The words fell between them like a soft spark. Leora's pulse quickened. She wasn't sure what she was supposed to say, or whether she should say anything at all. Part of her wanted to hide behind her notebook. Another part wanted to lean into the moment completely. Before she could decide, a sudden humming noise vibrated through the observatory walls. Low, steady, unfamiliar. The sound made the old dome tremble ever so slightly, as if something unseen was brushing against it. Kale snapped his head toward the source, every muscle going still. "That's not supposed to happen," he said quietly. Leora swallowed. "What do you think it is?" Kale stood slowly, eyes narrowing as the humming grew stronger, trembling like distant thunder. "I think," he murmured, "we're about to find out." The humming deepened, filling the observatory like a slow vibration under the floorboards. Leora felt it move through her sandals, rising up her legs, settling in her chest. It wasn't frightening in a dangerous way, just strange, like a signal she didn't know how to interpret. Kale stepped closer to the wall, placing his palm flat against the cool metal. His brow tightened, and for a moment he didn't speak. The air felt suspended, almost holding its breath with them. Leora stood beside him. "Have you heard anything like this before?" "Once," he murmured, "but not this strong." He didn't explain once meant, and she didn't push him yet. Instead, she listened. The sound was steady, pulsing gently, almost rhythmic, like a far-off heartbeat buried somewhere deep underground. Kale finally pulled his hand back. "We should check the panel behind the dome," he said. "Most of the wiring in this place is older than both of us put together, and if something shorted, it could be dangerous." His tone was calm, but something about the way he kept glancing toward the ceiling told Leora there was more on his mind. They climbed the narrow metal stairs toward the upper level. The observatory creaked with each step, but the humming seemed to follow them, vibrating against the curved walls like a sound coming from everywhere at once. When they reached the maintenance panel, Kale knelt and opened it carefully. A tangle of copper wires spilled into view, dusted with age. Leora watched him examine them with surprising familiarity. "You know how to fix this stuff?" she asked. "Kind of," he replied with a modest shrug. "My father used to work on old tech. I picked up a few things." He kept talking, but Leora noticed something unusual. Small flickers of pale blue light weaving between the wires. They were soft, almost invisible unless she leaned close, but they moved with purpose, pulsing in time with the humming. "Kale, look." He did, and the moment his eyes met the glow, something shifted in his expression. Surprise first, then recognition. "This shouldn't be possible," he whispered. "What shouldn't be possible?" He hesitated, not because he wanted to keep secrets, but because his words seemed to come slowly, shaped by caution. "I've seen this kind of energy before," he said, "near the cliffs, a long time ago. It didn't behave like electricity, more like something alive." Leora stared at the moving lights, mesmerized. They weren't chaotic. They danced in small spirals, weaving in and out of the wires as if exploring them. "Do you think we're in danger?" she asked. Kale shook his head. "Not danger, but definitely something unusual." He reached out, letting one fingertip hover close to the glowing thread of light without touching. It reacted immediately, swirling toward him as if drawn to the warmth of his presence. Leora gasped softly. Kale's voice lowered. "It's responding." A sudden pulse of brighter light flashed, then darted upward like a startled bird. It shot across the curved ceiling, leaving a faint streak behind, before disappearing into a narrow crack where the dome panels met. The humming faded with it, disappearing as quickly as it had begun. Silence took its place, heavy, thoughtful, full of questions. Kale exhaled slowly and closed the maintenance panel. Whatever that was, it wasn't just a glitch. "No kidding," Leora said, trying to steady her heartbeat. "But what do we do now?" He stood and looked toward the crack where the light vanished. "I think we follow it. If it came from somewhere, it's going somewhere." Leora felt a swirl of nerves and excitement. She had always chased mysteries among the stars, but she had never expected one to fall at her feet in her own observatory. Still, she wasn't about to let Kale face it alone. "Then I'm coming with you," she said. Kale turned to her slowly, eyes softening the moment they met hers. "I knew you'd say that." A faint smile tugged at her lips. "You don't get to face strange glowing energy on your own." But something unspoken hovered behind his smile, a warmth, a quiet gratitude, something that went deeper than words. He reached out and gently touched her elbow, guiding her toward the stairs. "We'll take it step by step. No rushing into anything." As they started down, Leora realized something unexpected. The mystery wasn't the only thing pulling her forward. It was the feeling of walking beside him. Yet, just as they reached the bottom step, a soft pop echoed through the observatory, like something unlocking behind the walls. They both froze. The crack in the dome glowed again, this time brighter and widening. The glow spilling from the widening crack shimmered like liquid starlight, soft yet impossibly bright. Leora shielded her eyes with one hand, but Kale stepped forward, drawn to it in a way that made her heart twist with worry. The dome groaned, metal shifting, as if responding to an unseen pull. The glow brightened again, gentle, not harsh, its light wrapping the observatory in a calm, silvery warmth. Leora whispered, "Is it going to break?" Kale shook his head slowly. "I don't think it's breaking. I think it's opening." The air changed. A faint breeze drifted through the crack, though there shouldn't have been any wind inside. It carried a scent she didn't recognize, soft, clean, like dew on a meadow she had never walked through. Kale reached out his hand, palm up, toward the widening seam, not touching, just waiting. The light reacted immediately, bending toward him like a ribbon of soft energy, curling around his fingers without landing. Leora watched with awe tightening her chest. "It likes you." Kale gave a quiet, uncertain laugh. "If that's true, I'd love to know why." Another ripple of glow drifted downward from the crack, hovering in front of them. It pulsed, once, twice, like a heartbeat greeting them in an unknown language. Leora felt something shift inside her, a tug of curiosity pressing past her fear. "Kale, what if it's trying to communicate?" Kale looked at her, and in his eyes she saw both wonder and a hint of hesitation. "If it is, then we should listen." The glowing thread floated lower, settling just above the floor. When Kale slowly stepped toward it, it drifted in the opposite direction, toward the old storage door behind the main platform. Leora frowned. "It wants us to follow." "Then we follow," Kale said with quiet certainty. They approached the storage door, one Leora rarely opened except to fetch cleaning supplies. When Kale pulled the handle, the hinges creaked softly, revealing a narrow corridor she had never noticed before. She blinked. "That wasn't here yesterday." "I think it's always been here," Kale murmured, "just hidden, until now." The corridor extended only a few paces before ending at a strange metal panel embedded in the wall, smooth and unfamiliar. The glowing thread settled above it, gently pulsing. Kale knelt to examine it. This is definitely not original to the building. Leora crouched beside him. Then who put it here? He ran his fingertips over the panel's surface. The metal warmed instantly at his touch. A soft chime rang out, and the panel lit up with faint symbols, shapes Leora had never seen, curved and delicate, almost like constellations drawn in motion. Her breath caught. "Kale, these look like star paths." He looked at her, startled. "You recognize them?" "Not exactly," she said, "but they resemble my charts, only older, more detailed, like something ancient." The symbols pulsed again. Kale's voice softened, almost like it's asking for something. Leora reached toward the panel, slowly, carefully. The moment her fingertips brushed the glowing symbols, a low hum filled the narrow corridor, not harsh, but warm, like a welcome. The panel shifted. A thin section slid open, revealing a small compartment inside. Nestled within it lay a circular object the size of her palm, smooth, silver white, and faintly glowing like moonlit glass. Leora whispered, "What is that?" Kale picked it up gently, holding it as though it might vanish if handled too firmly. The glow brightened, wrapping his hand in soft light. "It feels warm," he murmured, "almost alive." Leora leaned closer. "Does it hurt?" "No," he said softly. "It feels familiar." A faint vibration moved through the floor again, this time gentle, steady, almost reassuring. The observatory above them creaked softly in response. Kale swallowed. "I think this is connected to the energy we saw earlier, and maybe it's connected to me." Leora's eyes widened. "Connected to you, how?" He hesitated, struggling with the words, before finally exhaling. "There's something I haven't told you, something I've been trying to understand for a long time." Leora's pulse quickened, not from fear, never fear, but from the quiet seriousness in his tone. "What is it?" she asked. Kale looked down at the glowing object resting in his palm. "It started when I was a kid. Strange lights, strange dreams, things I never understood. And I think," his voice trembled with a rare vulnerability, "I think this has something to do with who I really am." The light in his hand pulsed brighter, as if agreeing. Leora felt her breath catch. He wasn't finished. "There's something else you need to know," Kale said, lifting his gaze to hers, eyes full of quiet truth. "And it changes everything." The narrow corridor felt smaller as Kale held the glowing object between them, its soft light wrapping the walls in silver warmth. Leora didn't move. She barely breathed. Whatever he was about to say hovered in the air like a tremor, waiting to form into sound. Kale lowered his gaze for a moment, steadying himself. "I've spent years trying to ignore things that didn't make sense," he said quietly. "Strange patterns I could see in the night sky, dreams that felt like memories. And that energy we saw earlier, it reacts to me the same way it did when I was little." Leora listened with her full heart, not wanting to interrupt, not wanting to rush him. "When I was a kid," he continued, "my father once told me that some people in the world are born with a connection to old things, forgotten things. He didn't explain it fully. He didn't want to worry me. But he said I might feel called by something someday." Cal swallowed hard. "I think this is that something." The glowing object pulsed again, gentle and rhythmic. Leora stepped closer, instinct guiding her more than certainty. "Cal, whatever this is, you're not alone with it." His eyes softened in a way that made the whole corridor feel warmer. "I know, and that's why I can finally say this out loud." He turned the circular object toward her. Its surface looked almost like glass at first glance, but the light inside moved like swirling stardust. "I didn't come to the observatory last night just to walk you home," he admitted. "I went because I kept feeling drawn here, like something was waiting. I didn't understand it until now." The realization washed over Leora slowly. "You were pulled toward this energy, toward whatever is inside that object." Cal nodded. "And toward you." Her breath caught. "Me?" He held her gaze with a sincerity so steady it nearly broke her composure. "From the moment I met you, something in me quieted, like all the noise in my head finally had a place to rest. I didn't know what it meant. I still don't know everything. But when that energy appeared last night, the first thing I worried about was you." Warmth rose through Leora's chest, blooming, slowly, not sharp or sudden, just real. "That's not something you need to apologize for," she said gently. Kale gave a small, grateful smile, then looked back at the object. "I think this, whatever it is, wants to be understood. Maybe it's a message, maybe it's a key, but I can't make sense of it alone." Leora reached out, letting her fingers brush the edge of the glowing circle. It didn't react the way it had with Kale. It didn't brighten or pulse, but her touch brought a different response. The swirling light inside slowed, becoming calm, almost steady. Kale blinked. "It's reacting to you too." "Maybe it needs both of us," she whispered. He seemed to consider that, his expression easing into something like hopeful acceptance. "If that's true, then we figure it out together." A quiet warmth filled the small corridor. The glowing object hummed softly, as if agreeing. Kale took a slow breath. "There's something else I've wanted to tell you for a long time, long before all this started happening today." Leora's heart quickened. "What is it?" He stepped closer, carefully, respectfully, leaving space, but still close enough that she felt the sincerity radiating from him. "When I defended you that night," he said, voice low with emotion, "I didn't think. I just acted. Because losing you, even the idea of it, hit me harder than I expected, and I've been trying to understand why." Leora felt her pulse in her throat. Kale continued, softer now. "I think it's because you matter to me in a way I can't ignore anymore." Her breath trembled, but she didn't step back. "Kale." "I'm not asking for answers right now," he said quickly, a gentle reassurance in his tone. "I just needed you to know the truth before whatever this is takes us somewhere we don't expect." The corridor seemed to grow quieter, as if the observatory itself were listening. Leora placed her hand over his, the one holding the glowing object. The light flared softly, wrapping their hands in a delicate shimmer. "You don't have to face any of this alone," she said. "Not the mystery, not the fear, not the feelings." Kale's breath caught, just once, before he let out a slow, relieved exhale. "Thank you." The glowing object pulsed brighter than before, then steadied, as if forming a gentle promise in the air. Leora smiled, small but certain. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Kale nodded, eyes warm with something deep and unspoken. Together. The corridor brightened with a final soft shimmer of light, wrapping them both in a quiet, hopeful glow, one that felt less like an ending and more like the beginning of a story neither of them had realized they were already living.